Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another Riverside Township Radio Players. Programs that recreate old-time radio stories that we loved as kids. Well, some of us were kids at that time anyway. We are brought to you by the Riverside Township, its board and its supervisor, Rich Tusher, and are pleased to mention that these shows may also be viewed on local Network 6 television and on the internet just by clicking in www.riversideradio.net. And there's some flyers on the table there you may pick up on your way out. If you're not familiar with these old shows, you've missed a lot. The golden age of radio was wonderful entertainment. By the way, if any of you might be tempted to join us here on stage and like to read and perform, please see us after tonight's performance. We'd love to add you to our repertory. Now, tonight, we bring you two very different scripts, but they're related. You'll see why as the second show evolves. We'll start with one of radio's best-known crime show formats and one of the longest runs, The Whistler. Some of you may remember that haunting theme that always opened the show. 13 notes that were beautifully whistled by a woman. Dorothy Roberts, who with perfect pitch whistled each show for 13 years. So take that. So let's begin with this tale of grim irony, told by a voice who baits the guilty with his smiling malevolence, because, after all, he knows what's about to happen. The Whistler.
I am the Whistler, and I know many things, for I walk by night. I know many strange tales hidden in the hearts of men and women who have stepped into the shadows. Yes, I know the nameless terror of which they dare not speak.
Yes, friends. It's time for the Household Finance Corporation program, The Whistler, rated by independent research as one of your favorite mystery programs. For the money you need, when you need it, see HFC, Household Finance Corporation, and that's a good advice. If you need extra money to help pay the doctor bills, the dentist bills, taxes, and emergencies of all sorts, use Household Finance Money Service. It's convenient. At Household, we're always ready to help. Next time you have a money problem, remember HFC.
HFC means Household Finance Corporation.
And we'll be glad to help you anytime we can. And now, the Whistler's strange story, the sheriff's assistant.
Friday was the climax of a terrible week for Richard Rowley. It was a week of decision, and in all of his 45 years, Willard had shunned decision like the plague. But he was forced to face it now. Nan Parker would never take it lying down. He knew she'd force a showdown the minute she discovered the real reason he told her their affair was over. That Grace Rowley, Richard's wife, had unexpectedly inherited $500,000. His whole future was at stake, and the end of the week found him desperate. He was known to readers of the little magazines as a clever writer, but now his famous Rowley wit had failed him, When he tried to write, he found himself inventing explanations. When he tried to sleep, he outlined thin denials. His writing, of course, had earned him more fame than money, and he realized now that for everything, almost down to his cigarettes, he was dependent on his devoted wife.
It's 10 o'clock, Willard. The country's just beautiful. I do wish you'd get up and go for a walk with me.
Please, Grace. Don't be hardy at this uncivilized hour. What have you got there?
The mail. Willard, you haven't touched your breakfast tray.
I'm not hungry, Grace. Where's my newspaper?
Here it is. Myra forgot it.
Have to speak to that maid.
Willard, what use is there in having a country home if you don't enjoy it? You haven't been yourself all week, staying in bed all day, alone in your room.
I'm not feeling well, that's all. What's in the mail?
Oh, here's a memo from Finch. The profile you're writing is 6 days overdue.
He can wait.
But you've hardly done a stroke of work all week. Really, Willard, Finch offered you the best price ever. And until the inheritance comes through,
Oh,
what are we
that
supposed...
again. I tell you, Grace, I'm not a machine. And as for Finch, if he wants quality in his articles, he'll just have to wait. Now, please have the maid clear this away. I hate cold food staring me in the face.
How about our walk?
Perhaps after I look at the newspaper.
I do wish you'd tell me what's wrong with you, Willard.
As Grace leaves, Willard, you almost wish you could tell her. It would be quite a scene, wouldn't it? Her stunned silence at first, then mounting rage as you calmly informed her that for 2 years now you'd been seeing Nan Parker secretly, that only a week ago you and Nan had planned to run away together. But there are other reasons why you can't do that, aren't there? 500,000 of them. You pick up the newspaper, hurriedly scan the first page, and grow suddenly tense as your eyes strike an article in the left-hand column.
Local resident heiress, Grace Rowley, named beneficiary in a will of distant relative.
It's only a matter of time now, Willard. The minute Nan Parker sees that article in the paper, there'll be a showdown. And the thing that strikes home as you sit there is that Nan Parker holds all the cards. One word to Grace and it's over. You stare at the article, hoping Nan will be reasonable, knowing at the same time that Nan Parker is Nan Parker, and that nothing will change her. Then...
Yes?
Well, darling, I've missed you. A week is such a long time.
You shouldn't call me like this, Nan. I told you
I had to talk to you. You see, Willard, I'm leaving Ralph.
You're what?
We had another exhausting quarrel, and I told him we were through.
I'm awfully sorry, Nan. But you see, it doesn't concern me now.
Oh, but it does.
What do you mean?
I want to see you, Willard. We have a lot to talk about, you know.
But that isn't possible. We agreed.
See you soon, darling. Real soon.
Nan! Nan! Wait! What about... Fool woman.
Oh, Willard, aren't you dressed yet? I thought you were going for a walk.
Grace, I wish you'd remember to knock. How can I work with everybody crashing in here?
I'm sorry. Ralph Parker's car is in the drive. I told Myra to send him up.
Parker? What does he want?
I don't know. Odd, isn't it, Willard? The Parkers almost seem to be avoiding us lately.
That doesn't. I shan't be able to write a line. Next door neighbors buzzing in and out of here like mosquitoes.
I wouldn't call the Parkers exactly next door. Here, Willard, slip on the dressing gown.
Not that one. You know I can't stand wool next to me.
Oh, yes, the sensitive skin. I forgot.
Is it okay if I walk right in?
It seems to be.
Oh, good morning, Ralph. You're quite a stranger.
Well, you know how it is with photographers. We practically have to live in a darkroom. Hey, what's the old man doing in bed?
The entire world, except you, Parker, knows I do my best writing in bed.
Sit down, Ralph. I'll move the typewriter.
Never mind, Grace. He's only come to insult me. Let him stand.
I won't be long, really. I just came to talk to Willard a minute.
To me? What about?
Nan.
Oh, about Nan. Well, Grace, it's quite obvious the battling Parkers have been at it again. Perhaps you'd better go. I suspect this is private.
Not at all. I just as soon Grace stayed.
Grace, I'd rather you left.
What's the matter, Willard? Is there something you don't want me to hear?
No, but... All right, Parker, what is it?
Well, I'm pretty worried.
Oh?
Nan and I had another row, or maybe you've heard.
How would we have heard?
Oh, it's all over town. She says she's going to leave me.
Oh, I'm very sorry to hear it, Ralph.
And I love her very much, you know? I don't think I could go on without her.
Of course.
Well, I just wanted to tell you that I took the liberty of parking an automobile in that old shed of yours next to the highway.
The tractor shed? What on earth for?
Well, it's a new car, and I've had it on order for months. You see, tomorrow's Nan's birthday, and, well, I thought I'd surprise her with it then.
Oh, a peace offering.
Yeah, and it may be the last one.
That would be a pity. Your battles are the only interesting thing about either of you.
Willard, please.
Oh, that's all right, Grace. Seems to be the general feeling around here. Well, I'll be going along, and hey, thanks about the car.
Not at all, Ralph.
Well, wish me luck, huh?
I'm sure it'll all work out, Ralph.
Goodbye.
Poor man. He never knows where he stands with that woman.
What makes you say that?
I hate to repeat rumors, Willard, but I've heard it so many times.
Rumors? What rumors?
Well, they're saying Nan has been interested in some man right here in this town. That it's been going on for over a year.
Why, that's ridiculous.
Perhaps. But you know how I feel about those things, Willard. It may be old-fashioned, but if I were Ralph and I discovered something like that, I'd send her packing in 2 seconds.
Yes, Grace, I know.
Come on now, let's go out for our walk, shall we?
No, I've changed my mind, Grace. I've got to work. Finch is having a fit. I shall probably stay in bed all day.
Again? Willard, will you tell me what's wrong with you? It's not natural for you to be
Oh,
alone.
Grace. If you plague me with analysis now, I shall go mad. Go fix an old hat or something. I've got to work.
But it's not work, is it, Willard? The brittle front, the sharp tongue, your rudeness to Ralph Parker. All of it a feeble attempt to cover the fact that you're afraid now. That you can feel Nan Parker standing over you with an axe. And like a little boy, you turn to your bed as the safest place you know. For the next hour or two, you peck away at your typewriter, trying to finish the profile you promised Finch, but you can't keep your mind on it. Then a sudden, strange noise makes you look up.
A perfect picture, darling. Typing away all comfy and cozy.
Nan, what are you doing here?
Don't be alarmed. No one knows I'm here. I slipped in through the back door.
I told you I couldn't.
There was a time when you were delighted to see me at any time, Willard. Give me a cigarette.
I haven't got one. And don't be arch. It doesn't suit you.
Then I'll be direct. We're going to discover New York together, Willard, just as we planned.
And I told you that's out of the question.
Well, I admit you stopped me. One day you were mumbling something in my ear about the sudden flight of summer hearts, and the next day you were devoted to Grace. It didn't make any sense until this morning.
I suspected you read the paper.
You're not going to shake me because Grace is suddenly rich, darling. Don't ever think it. You're a phony and a heel. But I'm fond of you, and I'm used to getting what I want.
I'm considering going to Grace and telling her the whole thing. Stop it, Nan. Stop it.
Oh, you're wonderful, Willard. Let's go down together and tell her, shall we?
I said I was considering it.
You considered it a week ago, and you gave it up because you know Grace would toss you out that window in those beautiful figured pajamas the minute she heard of it. Now be practical, dear. You're either going to New York with me, just as we planned, or I'm going to Grace with the whole story.
No alternative.
Not one little alternative, darling. It's all decided. Now be an angel and fix me a drink, won't you?
Yes, Willard. Fix Nan a drink. But as you move to the sideboard, you know there's no way out now, is there, Willard? She's clever and determined, just like you. She knows your wit, your shrewd dramatics. You desperately force your mind for some dodge, some persuasion. But you know it's too late for that now. Your thoughts are beginning to move like chain lightning. There must be something else, some way to silence her when everything else has failed. Something. And at that moment, Willard, standing there, friendly glass in hand, you cross the narrow social threshold and start down the dark stairs of murder.
Darling, do I get a drink, or are you going to stand there forever?
What? Oh, sorry. Coming up. Here you are.
Thanks.
Nan, when did you plan to begin our little excursion?
Tonight,
Why so soon?
I told you. I'm leaving Ralph. We can slip away quite easily without being seen. He'll be in his dark room until 12, tied up with his photography.
Alone. In his dark room.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it'll be simple, won't it?
I can meet you at the tractor shed next to the highway. Oh, you probably already know Ralph put the new car there. He's giving it to me for my birthday. Isn't that convenient?
Yes. Very convenient. What about the keys?
Well, they're in the drawer of his dresser. I found them this morning.
I see. What time shall I meet you, Nan?
How about 9?
No, later. The New Haven bus goes by at 9. We won't want to be seen. Make it 9:30.
9:30 it is. Skål, darling. To us.
To us.
With the prologue of the Sheriff's Assistant, Household Finance Corporation is bringing you another strange tale by the Whistler.
You know, Mr. Niles, most people have a sort of funny feeling about borrowing. I guess they feel that borrowing just isn't right. Maybe they're thinking about old Ben Franklin, never a borrower be, and that so forth.
Yes, many people do have strange resistance to borrowing. But you must remember, we've come a long way since Benjamin Franklin sailed his kite. Thinking about money has been modernized, just like clothes or transportation or anything else. At Household Finance Corporation, we say, never borrow unless you must. And if you have to borrow, do it the right way.
For instance,
Well, borrowing to keep your credit good, to pay bills, take care of emergencies, is just good sense. So if the reason is right, borrow, but borrow the right way. Remember the letters, HFC.
HFC means Household Finance Corporation.
We'll be glad to help anytime we can. And now, back to the Whistler.
Well, Willard, it's quite a problem, isn't it? Nan Parker, so persistent. Your wife, Grace, so devoted, and now so rich. But there's a way out, and oddly enough, Nan herself placed it squarely up to you as the two of you stood over a friendly drink in your room this afternoon. It's all there now, with Nan's husband, Ralph, in his photo lab all evening, with the new car in the tractor shed near the highway, with Nan insisting that you meet her there tonight. And, best of all, your wife, Grace, knows you plan to stay alone in your room, working, and you're sure she'll never disturb you. No one will know you left your room, even for an instant, except Nan. And after your meeting tonight, she won't tell anyone anything. Shortly after 9, you throw on a dark overcoat over your pajamas, slip past Grace, reading in the library, and out the back door. It's warm outside, a pleasant night. No foreboding as you step quickly over the quiet grass. No sense of murder. You hurry cross country, a quick shadow on the open field. It's 9:33 when you see the glow of Nan's cigarette in the darkness of the tractor shed, a quarter mile from the house.
Nan?
Oh, darling, I'm so relieved. I was afraid you might not be sensible.
You're sure no one saw you?
Of course not. No one will suspect a thing until they see the note.
Note? You left a note?
Well, after all, I couldn't just disappear, could I?
You fool! What did you say in that note?
I said I couldn't tolerate Ralph another minute, and I was leaving him.
What did you say about me?
Darling, should I have mentioned you? I didn't think it was necessary. I just packed my bag and I...
Answer me! Are you telling the truth? What did you say about...
Stop shaking me, Willard. Stop it. I didn't say anything about you. Well, naturally, I assumed that you would... Willard, what are you wearing under that coat? You can't go away dressed like that.
I'm not going away, my sweet. And neither are you.
Willard, what is this? What do you mean by... Willard!
Take that.
She stumbles backwards as you lunge at her, and as the two of you struggle, you're vaguely aware of a crash as a metal can topples from its shelf. It's done now, Willard. You stand over her, weak-kneed, shaking. A second later, You're surrounded by flames. Her cigarette falling into that dry straw. And that upset can of gasoline. You beat at the fire helplessly as it spreads quickly across the floor of the shed. And then another sound.
The New Haven bus! Good Lord, it's late.
Yes, Willard. The bus and the load of witnesses you thought had gone by. You can't make it back across the open field now. There's only one way out. You bend down, snatch the ignition key from Nan's hand, slide behind the wheel of the car, put your foot on the starter.
Hey, you! In there! What's going on?
Hey, there's a fire. Look, there's a man in there. It's burning. Is he crazy?
Come,
What's
folks.
happening?
We've got to see if we can give that guy a hand.
There's a car in there! Watch out! It's coming out! Look out!
How do you like that?
He's driving right off.
He didn't even stop. He almost ran over me. Are you all right? Where's he going? Why is he leaving?
All right, let him go. We've got to take care of this fire. Someone get over to that service station we just passed and call the fire department. Good, and I'll get the fire extinguisher from the bus. It might do some good until the firemen get here.
Holy smokes, this is some blaze. Look inside. What's that? Is that something, someone on the floor? Yes, it's a woman.
Hey, you! Call the fire department and call the sheriff.
You're thankful that they didn't see your face. But there's no more careful planning now. You're improvising, doing whatever you can, whatever you have to escape. You know you've got to get rid of the car. You roar up the road, past your house, swerve off into a deep thicket just beyond the Parker's house, and jam to a stop. A moment later, you force your way out, the twigs and underbrush scratching your face, knocking your hat off, forcing you to stop for a terrible moment and search for it on hands and knees. At last, you find it. Push your way out of the thicket and start across a field. It seems an eternity until you reach the back door of your house, grab the doorknob, then stop, frozen as the kitchen light snaps on.
Is that you, Mrs. Raleigh?
Yes, Myra. I was just going to fix a cup of chocolate to take up to Mr. Rowley.
No.
I hope you can get him to take it, ma'am. He's looking poorly lately, don't you think?
Yes, Myra. I'm very worried about him, too. He's just not himself at all. Sitting up there, alone, listening to the radio. It's just not like him.
My stars, what's that?
Oh, it's the fire alarm in the village. Get me some cups and tray from the dining room, Myra.
Certainly, ma'am.
You're trapped outside the kitchen door, Willard, with a siren splitting the night. Grace is about to go up to your room with a cup of chocolate. And worse than that, a car is pulling up to your front door. You hold your breath in agony.
Never mind, Myra. I'll get it.
Thank goodness. Now I can go inside.
You grab at the chance, bolt through the kitchen and up the stairs to your room. There's just enough time to toss the overcoat and shoes into the closet, snap off the radio, and get into bed before Grace is at your bedroom door.
Willard,
What?
something's happened, my dear. May I disturb you?
Certainly. Of course. Let me just turn on the lights.
Willard, the tractor shed caught on fire. They've just put it out. There's a man downstairs.
What? The shed? That old fire trap? I knew sooner or later.
You'd better get out of bed, dear. Put on your robe. Apparently there was someone inside when it burned. Someone inside was burned. Something. The sheriff is on his way over.
Well, I'm going to stay right here in bed and meet him.
Willard, why would the sheriff want to talk to you?
I don't know, Grace. I haven't the slightest idea. But we'll find out, won't we?
You brace yourself, Willard. Get set for the questions you know are coming. And, above all, you refuse to get dressed and go downstairs. You want to be in bed, don't you? So the sheriff will get the absolute right impression. So there won't be any cause for doubt when Grace tells them you were in bed when it all happened. You've been in bed all evening. When the sheriff does arrive, you are ready.
I can't believe it, Sheriff. Nan Parker? Trapped in our shed? Why, it's terrible.
Poor Nan. She was such a dear friend.
I didn't say she was trapped in the shed. One whole side of it was open, you know.
That's right. Of course. She couldn't have been.
She was murdered, Mr. Rowley,
What?
before the fire began. At least that's the way I figure it.
But I don't understand, Sheriff. Who in the world would want to hurt Nan?
Who indeed? Nan was a very fine person.
I thought perhaps you folks might be able to help me on that.
Now, wait a minute, Sheriff. I think I know what you're driving at.
Oh?
Yes. They were always fighting.
Willard!
I'm sorry, Grace, but it's no secret. Everyone called them the Battling Parkers.
Yes, so I've heard. And this time I think she was trying to leave him. There was a suitcase found.
Grace, remember what he said this morning? He couldn't go on without
But
her.
I can't believe that Ralph would do anything to harm Nan.
It isn't easy to believe such things about our own neighbors, Mrs. Rowley. But it does look bad for Parker. He doesn't even have an alibi. Just his story that he was alone in his photo darkroom all evening.
I guess you won't need much else to go on, Sheriff.
Maybe not. But I have an assistant on this case.
An assistant?
Yeah. I'm going to wait for a few developments before making an arrest.
Wait, but Sheriff.
Don't worry, Rowley. The way I figure it, I'll have a perfect case against a murderer by sometime tomorrow.
The Whistler will return in just a moment with the strange ending to tonight's story. Now we'd like to introduce a gentleman standing by in your own local community to speak on behalf of household finance.
Hey, if you by chance ever come across a dire circumstance that forces you in the hands of a creditor, be sure you choose the right creditor to whom you owe money. That would be we, HFC. And don't ask what it stands for, because HFC doesn't stand for you. It stands over you. Especially if you happen, by chance or by accident, to fall behind in your payments. You should not allow that to happen. Because what happens if that happens, you do not want to experience. So borrow what you need and pay pay HFC back forever. We will be glad of this friendly arrangement. So long as we stay friendly. Thank you, and sweet dreams.
Oh, no. Thank you. And now, back to the Whistler.
Well, Willard, nothing to do now but rest and wait. All the evidence points to Ralph Parker, doesn't it? You can't understand the sheriff not arresting him immediately, but you can't press it too far. They'll add it all up, Willard. Ralph's car hidden in the thicket, the fact that he and Nan quarreled the afternoon before she was found dead in the burnt tractor shed, her suitcase indicating she planned to run away from Ralph, and his feeble story that he was working all evening alone in his photo darkroom. They'll never believe that, Willard. So, he hasn't any real alibi, only a strong motive to commit murder. Quite different from your position, with your wife, Grace, and the maid, Myra, ready to swear you hadn't been out of your bed for days. Yet you still find it difficult to sleep, don't you, Willard? Murder doesn't rest easy on the mind. It's nearly 3 in the morning before you finally doze off, tossing feverishly, anxious and bothered, something irritating you. When you finally open your eyes, it's almost noon, and someone is knocking at your bedroom door.
Never mind, Mrs. Rowley. I'll just go right on in.
But Sheriff, this is an imposition. Willard can't know any more about the case. He hasn't been out of his room for a week.
I know all about that.
Willard, dear, the sheriff wants to... Willard, your face. What's happened to your face?
Huh?
Numbly, slowly, you put your hands to your face, Willard. Then, for the first time in your life, you experience real, sharp, climatic fear. The real end of your truly terrible week.
Willard! Oh, Willard!
Rowley, I told you I had an assistant. A pretty effective worker, wouldn't you say?
Grace! Grace! Don't let him handcuff me. I'm innocent. You know that. I haven't left this room.
It's no use, Rowley. It's all over. All over your face. You've caught yourself, Rowley. If you had gotten out of bed a bit more often, you'd have known better than to drive into that thicket next to the Parker's house, because that thicket contains the biggest patch of poison ivy in Douglas County, and the reaction of your face has given you away.
Let that whistle be your invitation to listen to the Household Finance Corporation program, The Whistler, each week over these stations. See you next week. This is Ken Niles speaking for HFC, Household Finance Corporation, reminding you, never borrow unless you must. But if you have to borrow, do it the right way at HFC, Household Finance Corporation. Featured in tonight's tale of grim irony were the following. Playing the Whistler himself, the man who knows the nameless terrors of which the guilty dare not speak, was John Wirtz. The man caught in his own dark web, William Rawley, was Andrew Dixon. And his wife, Grace, was played by Sue Gaczynski. In the role of the other woman, Nan Parker, fondly referred to as Dead Nan, was Donna Amesmeyer, who also quickly revived to dash over and start fires and ring door chimes in our sound effects department. Ralph Parker's character was read by Rob Humph. Myra, the maid, was Nell Brennan. And our other Rob Brzezinski, became the sheriff, whose assistant proved to be the biggest patch of poison ivy in Douglas County. Others lending their voices to this story were Judy Marsh, Jay Summerfield, and Ellie Bapta. Tonight, not only coming up with that blood-curdling scream, but also working the sound effects table. Oh, yes. And if you ever got caught behind in your borrowing, we have just a man for you, Big Tony, better known as Jay Summerfield. Doesn't he look the type? Our one-person music department is better known as Mary Ann Sadillac. And I am yours truly, John Shefke.